Distance and hybrid courses have been taught for centuries. Originally, they were in a person-to-person format. People in British colonies in North America, for example, often took correspondence courses for higher education prior to the founding of Harvard University in 1636. For the majority of the population seeking higher education, correspondence courses were the only alternative to traveling back to England for education. Imagine the reality of those distance courses. Students would wait at least 3 months for feedback on assignments, traveling across the Atlantic on clipper ships to Britain to established academic institutions. Students today, of course, would rightfully complain if a professor failed to return a paper in 3 months. By construct, these were not classes with interactions between a teacher and a group of students. Rather, these were independent studies. The classes were missing the learning that comes from the student-to-student interactions. For the faculty member, it was more of a laborious teaching process that had no economies of scale. Part 2 brought together the teachers and students. Correspondence courses open to the public came later. Charles Osborne writes that the earliest distance education courses may date back to the early 18th century in Europe. One of the earliest examples was from a 1728 advertisement in the Boston Gazette for Caleb Phillips, teacher of the new method of shorthand, who sought students who wanted to learn through weekly mailed lessons. Correspondence education on an organized basis began in the mid-19th century, largely in Great Britain, France, Germany, and the United States. The English educator, Sir Isaac Pitman, taught shorthand by mail starting in 1840. In the United States during the 19th century, there were several enterprises in adult education that also used the postal system. Early courses often focused on technical subjects, but more often on knowledge of certain books. This education was largely religious training based on the Bible, and later an understanding of the classics, such as Aristotle or Socrates. Law was also taught by correspondence course, which is ironic since law schools today are the least of the academic institutions to accept online learning. Distance education was largely designed for men to gain clerical occupations during the Industrial Revolution. Over time, the focus of distance education shifted from men to women. For women, courses were generally used to make them interesting in social circles, so they learned how to play musical instruments and to dance. As women entered the workforce, they too sought technical skills. Thus, correspondence courses over time emphasized taking shorthand or typing and were aimed at women. In 1873, Anna Ticknow began a series of courses for women to study at home. She created an organization that provided correspondence instruction to more than 10,000 students for over 24 years. Communication, teaching, and learning all took place through printed materials sent through the mail. Ticknor's 1873 course was called The Society to Encourage Studies at Home. There were 24 courses offered, and the student enrollment maximum reached 1,000 in 1882. Many language courses, such as French, were also taught. Part 3 was the mainstreaming of distance education in colleges and universities. Cornell University attempted to establish a correspondence university based out of its campus in 1883. It did not succeed. But in the same year, the first official recognition of correspondence education took place. Chautauqua College of Liberal Arts in the state of New York offered degrees through correspondence education and summer workshops, so engaging both distance and hybrid formats. Skill needs in the Industrial Revolution encouraged the development of further technical skills. Thomas J. Foster started home study courses in mine safety in the 1880s. This set of courses grew to become the International Correspondence School. In 1883, the Correspondence University was a consortium established between 32 U.S. universities, but they did not offer degrees, only courses. By the 1890s, correspondence courses focused on the development of clerical skills that were needed in a growing specialized bureaucracy. There was an emphasis on particular topics such as passing civil service exam tests or learning shorthand. These courses were advertised in print and, of course, by traveling salesmen. One of the drivers of growth at the end of the 19th century in the United States was the geographic separation in the country as it stretched west. Correspondence courses grew to be vehicles for women's education and educating people with physical handicaps. Part 4 was a maturation of the correspondence course and beginning to have perspectives on it. Until 1910, the medium of mail was the dominant delivery system, but new technologies such as the lantern slide and motion picture emerged to provide additional visually based options for correspondence study. Lantern slides were glass images on plates that could be projected and seen by audiences. They began using these perhaps by the 16th century. By replacing a series of glass slides, the projection of the lantern could show a series of instructions. It was a basic form of PowerPoint. In the 1920s, over 4 million Americans were enrolled in correspondence courses at the college or university level. This total exceeded the number attending face-to-face courses. But the academic record was abysmal and rivals the reality of the modern-day MOOC course. The completion rate then was 3%. A 1926 Carnegie Commission report came away with 4 observations. 1, in higher education, more students were in correspondence courses than in traditional programs. 2, 3/4 of U.S. adults had no other access to academic training programs. 3, rigors of instruction and course material lacked quality control and standardization. And 4, systems for identity verification were notably absent. These concerns ring true today. One concern for correspondence courses has always been their quality. Along with the known reputed institutions, there were also many frauds and connivers. Early courses suffered significant downturns in the early 1900s for a variety of these reasons. The sliding was due to the growth of for-profit institutions and the subsequent weakening of educational standards.